Let's look at Community 3.0 versus 4.0 and kind of think about, is your community a 3.0 or a 4.0? A 3.0, and the book covers a whole lot more. There's just no way we can. I'm talking at 1,000 miles an hour up here anyway, but there is no way we can cover all the characteristics. So I'm covering about 5 of the characteristics, some of the major characteristics here. Community 3.0 deals a lot in tradition. You'll go with a new idea to some of the leadership and they'll say, well, what we're doing seems to be working. We've always done it that way. Things are orderly. Things are fine. Let's not rock the boat. We've always done it that way. That's fine. Now, we don't want to get rid of tradition and our historic heritage and all that sort of thing, but we don't want to live in it totally either because you'll stagnate. Now, a 4.0 is looking for innovation. In fact, that's the way America will get ahead. If you look at a study that I think is one of the most exciting studies I've ever read, it's a study by the World Bank, and it shows that the most prosperous nation's wealth is 80% based on its people. It's not based on its hard assets. It's not really based on buildings or real estate or anything else that it has, the tangible assets, but it's based on the intangible assets. Even countries with great numbers of resources, if they're very prosperous and they're innovative, will still have 75 to 80% of their value in the value of their people, which means that innovation must come from an educated, thinking populace. So if we're worth about $80 trillion by government calculations, then we're really worth a little over $300 trillion if we could take all the people in the United States and educate them properly for global competition. Much of what is happening today, why so many people are out of work, is because they are not ready for the work that's available to them. And they're not being retrained or not taking the initiative to train themselves in order to do the work that's available. We wrote a book called Conquering Corporate Codependence back in 1993, offering the skills that were necessary by 2015 that people must have in order to take care of themselves in the workplace. It was very obvious in the early 90s that this was going to be happening at this time. Now, the collapse in 2008 caused us to hurry along a little bit with it. We got there before 2015. But we were already projecting back in 1993 that between 2015 and 2025, only 30% of the workforce would be permanently employed. That means you have a job today. Everybody else would be part-time or contract labor. And that causes one to have to use skills that America is not trained, even at this point, to use. It's entrepreneurial skills, and only 10% of America is trained to be entrepreneurial. We have a job to do in our education system. We have a job to do on our college level so that we can continue to innovate and be a 4.0, because this is what will set America apart from every other nation in the world and will retain our superiority. And communities will retain their superiority. You can give me 2 communities in relatively the same location, relatively the same population, and look at them 50 years later. Often one city is not even on the map anymore, and the other one is still there, and it's based on innovation, creative leadership, and forward-thinking people, as opposed to people that were just satisfied with the status quo. Another thing a 3.0 community does, it has concentrated power. Power is concentrated at the top, whereas a 4.0 has distributed power. It's a very diverse population, so the power is distributed among that population. Look at your city councils, look at your town management, look at who leads your city. It might not just be the paid or elected officials, but it could be your informal leadership. Do they reflect the diversity of your community, or do they lead according to just one culture? And that makes a big difference. Thirdly, 3.0 communities are normally homogeneous. They're mostly alike, they think alike. Anybody that comes in with a different thought is rejected. But if you have a 4.0 community, then it has diverse thinking, it has diverse culture, it has diverse ethnicity. And so you'll have a generation of new ideas. 3.0 again, most of them have a local perspective. They don't think globally. They would never think that their competition is really Toronto, Canada, or maybe Sydney, Australia. They're just thinking of the guy next door. And that's not where the competition is. It's global. As again, Mr. Perot, it's as if we had talked and we haven't. But it's as if we had had this conversation before he talked and before I talked. And it's as if we were thinking along the same way. It's not just people wanting, if they're moving from California, it's not just Texas trying to get them to move here. I mean, Japan's trying to get them to move over there. China's trying to get them to move over there. So we have work to do, and we have to be good at what we do. In fact, excellent at what we do. You'll find a 3.0 community rather short-sighted. They have a plan that's 20 to 25 years out, and they're really proud of it. Now, that's if they've taken it off the shelf to implement it. Now, I've seen communities who do study after study after study and spend $250,000 or more on studies, and they never take it off the shelf. It was fun to do, but it's not implemented. But short-sightedness is 25 years or less. Long-term vision is 100 years or less. That's what makes a community sustainable. What do you want to be doing out there 100 years from now? Now, you're going to have to revisit it every 3 to 5 years because things are going to change. There's no way we could project what Dallas or Fort Worth or San Antonio is going to be in 100 years. But to get there, you have to at least file a flight plan. And then you revisit it to make sure you're on the right path. Now, just thinking about it, don't have to raise your hand, don't have to say anything. Is your city or town 3.0 or 4.0? Or a little bit of each? Now, I don't know anybody that's totally 4.0 because we've just introduced the concept. But we need to be moving toward that, and within 5 years we need to be there, or we're not going to be competitive in the new market economy, in the new normal. The long-term driving force of community is leadership. And I would challenge that it would be 4.0 leadership.